Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Orange Bloods Live on a Monday. It's a big Monday. Lots of things going on over at orangebloods.com and Orange Bloods Live. Ride with me for like the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. Like, comment, subscribe to the page. We do appreciate when you do that. Also, we love our sponsors. We love Specs. Jump into the chat, the Specs chat, chat it up, send some super chats. I'll be on the lookout for your super chats. I see Tracy's already in the chat. Good to see you, H-Dog. Good to see you. And a shout out to our guys over at Texas Card House and Hijack Poker. Obviously, when it comes to our sponsors, none bigger, none more important than the title sponsor of this show, the guys over at Texas Card House. There's a part of me that wishes I was at Hijack Poker right now, playing in the noon tournament, trying to win some money, trying to have some fun, playing some cards, but not in my future today. What is in my future? Talking a little bit about recruiting. We will do that. By the way, Big Cheddar says, so is the noon show not called House Divided anymore? It'll probably still get kind of called that. We're moving away from that in general. It just doesn't make a ton of sense for us to have a bunch of shows that are named differently when at the end of the day, we're trying to really promote the channel and the brand. And so you'll be getting a lot more Orange Bloods Live, even if it's still kind of the same thing. But yeah, no, you ask a question, I will give you an answer. For instance, Tracy wants to know, is Heather going to join us again? Man, apparently she was just like outside the door listening to the show. I heard you say this. I heard you say that in the Overreaction Monday show. Nothing that I would not say to her face. Like, yeah, honey, I'm distracted. OrangeBloods.com, no longer going to be in the Rivals Network after today. Going to be an independent website. Lots of stuff going on. Forgive me if I'm not thinking about the fireworks on the 4th of July just yet. No offense. No offense. And yeah, she's probably listening and now feels like she'll have the ability to just jump on anytime she wants to. Russell says, big day for OB tomorrow. Freedom! Yeah, man, it's weird. I don't know life, really. It's been so long. I had hair. I've been with my wife for 20 years. Rivals and Orange Bloods predates all of that. So it is, I don't know. It's hard to like wrap my head around. Maybe I'll be able to do a better job of it in the coming days. There's still so much to do, stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. I'm literally checking my email. Hey, has anything come in my email? Nope, no update on that I'm looking for just yet. Sonny, if you're wondering and you're watching, no email update. Let's talk a little football recruiting. It's a weekend where, look, if you caught into the Overreaction Monday show here on Orange Bloods Live, you know I'm not fussed about recruiting. There's been a number of guys that have announced decisions over the course of the last few days. There will be more in the coming days. We'll get into that. Kind of a break today and tomorrow, so we think. But there's been Xavier Crowell and Malachi Lee and Chase Calicut and Damari Simeon and James Johnson and Xavier Griffin. And none of them went the way of the Longhorns. And so there's this like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just not fussed. From my perspective, I fully feel like Texas will have a top 5 national type recruiting class at a minimum when the recruiting process comes to an end. They've got 2 5-stars in the barn already with Diabell at quarterback and then an edge rusher and Richard Wesley. Like those are arguably the 2 most important positions on the field. And you got your number 1 targets and the best in the country at those spots. I don't understand what the fuss is about. In all, Texas needs to sign an average. On the average, in the last 3 years, they've signed a total of 6 on the average 5-star players and high 4-star players, my super blue chips, in each of the last 3 recruiting classes, which has built the program into the kind of the monster that it is right now. In fact, I pulled this up earlier today. I'll do it again because I think this tells a story. But this is what it looks like in terms of elite of the elite stuff. And by the way, Russ, I don't know why that's still up there. And by the way, yes, Chris Bennett, glamour shots by Jeff. Technically J.C. Penney's. I have a friend that has a job at the J.C. Penney's in the Woodlands Mall, and I helped her out. She just started a job there. Go hook up Ryan at the Woodlands Mall. A cheap plug for J.C. Penney's photo department at the mall. But the photos came out pretty funny. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State. Those are the top three rosters along with Alabama. To be fair, I didn't include Alabama in this, but they could be. They have the same number as Texas when we look at 5 stars and high 4 stars. This includes the portal, which is a very small portion of these numbers. Neither of these 3 teams really is just over inundated with huge portal numbers of the top 25 guys. Like, for instance, Shaq Injuries is a guy that probably should be on the list at tight end, and he's not for Texas. But it's hard to make this list. You have to buy at least 2 of the recruiting services, which will be 3 starting tomorrow. You have to buy now, eventually, 2 of the 3, but 2 of the 4 at the moment. To make this list, you have to multiple recruiting services have to have rated you that high. These are the 3 programs that stand atop college football. And as you can see, man, there's not a lot in a lot of this. Texas's linebacker numbers need to get a little bit better. They need to get a tight end. But other than that, like, running back's a wash, quarterback's basically a wash, especially when you consider that Dia Bell is committed. KJ Lacey almost makes this list. One service rivals had him ranked that highly, but nobody else did, so he doesn't make the consensus list. Wide receivers, everybody's got a bunch. DBs, everybody's got a bunch of DBs. Defensive line, offensive line. Texas doesn't take a back seat to either Ohio State or Georgia in those departments. I don't even know that most Texas fans even realize that. Like, that's how far they've come. We think of Georgia as, and they are, this defensive line producing monster in the NFL draft, but that's what it looks like on their roster. And if you have these numbers, trust me, the mid 4 stars and the low 4 stars, and like they follow. It's not like you have a bunch of elite of the elite guys and then it falls off a bridge. And then even if it did, there's not much difference between these other guys, the national top 100, 150, 250 from 750. The high 3 stars and the rest of the mere mortals and 4 stars aren't that different, which is what I've been trying to tell people for half a decade or more now. But you look at this board and look, if you're Texas, Xavier Crowell, that's one. If you wanted to talk about what has left the biggest mark, I think behind the scenes for the Longhorns, I think it's Crowell. I think there was some hope, some thought that they might swing that. In fact, I had indications of that this weekend. I don't think they feel like that one is completely done. But yeah, you'd like to get a running back. I think we know the offensive line. Malachi Lee would have been great. But he's not that big of a prospect. And we know that Turntine and Ojo are waiting in the wings, and suddenly that number jumps to 5 if Texas has a good month of July. So nobody's totally freaking out about those numbers. Xavier Griffin is exactly the kind of player that you want to have, but is he an edge? Is he at linebacker? Is it Atkinson and he have some crossover that if one versus the other is in your commitment class, it might render the other one's position in the class moot? I don't know. But like, I haven't had anybody freaking out, even in the slightest, behind the scenes with what's going on in recruiting. They're just not worried. I wrote something on my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend earlier today where it was a little bit like, look, they got Bell, they've got Wesley, they're going to get Ojo, they're probably going to get Turntine. I think Jamari Charlton is a betting favorite for Texas right now. That gets you to 5 super blue chips. One more and you've hit your average for the 3 years. And it doesn't feel like that's that big of an ask. That we know Sark's going to recruit well, and I think the pathway for Texas hitting its minimum numbers, and if the guys that we're talking about hit, you're talking about super blue chips at quarterback, edge, left tackle, another edge player, another offensive lineman. You're hitting them in the spots that you want to get them in. We know Texas wants to get a tight end. We know that running back would be nice, but there's also nuance in the numbers, and that Texas has 6 on scholarship right now, and none of them are scheduled to automatically depart when the season is over. So it's not imperative that they hit a huge home run at running back. A lot of people think they have the best running back room in the country going into this season. I don't. But some people have said that. Well, like 1 or 2 people have said that. But a lot of people that think that Texas as a running back room has one of the best in the country. All those guys return. I don't know how much I love the running back room, but I know this, they all come back and people really like that room. And both CJ Baxter and Trey Wisner are guys that are being talked about as NFL prospects. I saw Matt Miller and whoever the other guy is on ESPN in their draft premium stuff. Each of them had a different one of the other guys in their top 5 for the position. By the way, my ear itches, and I really want to itch my ear, but I really don't want to stick my finger in my ear. It's just an odd thought. As I'm talking right now, just want you guys to know my ear itches. So I'm not worried about the numbers. And when you look at the announcement schedule again, it's coming up this week. Texas will almost certainly get a commitment from Kendall Gorville, the defensive tackle. That one, he's admitted that Texas is the school that he's leaning to. Well, that's on Wednesday. Probably the first commitment of the new orangebloods.com website. Historical trivia note. Trenton Henderson announces on July 2nd. Doesn't feel like that's going to be Texas. Kosi Akpala, the linebacker, he announces on July 3rd. That should be Texas, but not a megawatt commit, but a commit. There's 2. Caden Finley's really going to be interesting to me. That's obviously Texas and Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame feels real confident that it's going to be them. I'll just say this, man. I keep hearing Jermichael wants the boy at Texas. If that kid commits to Notre Dame, my expectations are not that recruitment is over at all. And if we could just say the elephant in the room, if they don't get Caden Finley, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, Jermichael Finley's kids should play at Texas. And Caden Finley's really good. And I think he's going to be a really good college player. But it's at a position that Texas will be fine in. It's just, Anwar said it earlier today. Look, they didn't get DeCorian Moore last year, and everything turned out okay, even though you'd still like shank somebody to get DeCorian Moore on the roster. Doesn't mean that they're going to be destitute at wide receiver, or that last year's wide receiver class wasn't even the best in the country. It was certainly in that discussion when you think about who they signed and who they added to the program. So John Turntine, that's a big one. And that's a July 4th one. And by the time fireworks go off on the 4th, we may be talking about a 3-day swing where you're Gorville, you're Akpala, you're Turntine. Suddenly Texas probably top 10 nationally. They're still kind of getting heated. We still know there's more big ones to come. I'm just telling you, Texas is in a position. As long as they're able to have themselves in a conversation with Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama and Oregon. Those are the big 5 right now, but Oregon's below Alabama and Georgia, who are both slightly below Ohio State and Georgia. Alabama and Texas are below Ohio State and Georgia by a smidge. They're all bunched together. Nobody else is close. The drop-off from there to OU and Penn State and Clemson, you get into Texas has double. Let me put this chart back up, just so you guys can see it again, so that there's a certain amount of appreciation. All of the schools on the Texas, Georgia, Ohio State little trio, all 3 of these, 20 plus. Georgia and Ohio, I think Georgia has 25, Ohio State has 24 or 23. I can't remember exactly. I mean, I guess I could add it up real quick. That's 10. That's 22. Ohio State has 22. Georgia has 25. Texas has 20. That's what it looks like when the 3 biggest programs in the country, you take all that elite of the elite, all the guys that are probably making $1 million. There they are. $750,000. That's them. These dudes. Right? It's kind of as simple as that. How many millionaires do we have how many guys on this list do you have? Texas, it looks a lot different when you see 25, 22, and 20 versus 10 and 9. A lot of zeros start popping up at multiple positions when You're talking about OU and A&M and Clemson and the programs that just aren't recruiting at this level. So Texas and Ohio State and Georgia have just put themselves into a position where when they are when they lose a recruit, it's just not a huge deal. Chase Calicut, I'm going to bring it back up one more time. They lose Chase Calicut, maybe the number one safety in the country. But look at all three of these schools with DBs. Seriously. The kid went to Georgia. But if the kid had gone to Timbuktu U, does Georgia need to care? Like, really? Is Georgia running out of DBs? Is that what's happening? If you look at Texas didn't get Calicut. Now, look, I'm not saying you don't want to add Calicut. Georgia did. That's how you keep these numbers at 7 and 8. Guys go off, guys come on, right? But Texas, at Chase Calicut's position, they have Jonah Williams. Don't know if you've heard of that guy. He's good. They got to find a way to get him on the field. Xavier Filsaime, again, 5-star guy just 2 years ago. Can't quite get on the field yet, but super talented. At most schools, you're probably already seeing the 5-star guy on the field. Here, well, Mookie Tafsa, returning All-American, and they're trying to figure out what to do with Jelani McDonald, and then you've got Derek Williams coming back from injury, and it just goes on and on and on. They're good players. Good players. Kind of as simple as that. And so Texas is just loaded. They're just loaded with young talent. They're so loaded with young talent, I haven't even gotten to all of the young talent. You've got guys like Kobe Black and Cade Phillips, guys, again, that are on this list that are kind of easy to forget about because they haven't seen the field yet. But trust me, they're coming. They're there. It soothes the bruises left when you don't get guys in recruiting. And Texas, like I said, they're going to get their guys. We'll get to the middle of July, depending on when Ojo makes his announcement. Texas will probably be sitting at 5 super blue chips at that point, consensus super blue chips. Really the minimum number of requirements is 6. Everything else, the rest of the gaps will be filled in. That is recruiting at an elite level. And Texas is on their path to being there. There's just no real reason to overreact. Again, it's Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. No Chad Hastings this week. He's on vacation. I don't really know what's up with that. Chad gets a lot of vacation. When do I get a vacation? I don't even know that I'm taking the 4th of July off, guys, for the record. Just full transparency. There's a good chance that I'll just go live on the 4th because why the hell not? But that being said, real quick, when I saw this one earlier today, this may be my Specs, sponsor of the chat, and I haven't seen any super chats yet. Holy hell. S. Roan, you just brought something up. Hold that thought real quick. This may be my favorite Specs spot of all time.
This summer, when the sun scorches and sanity is one sweat beat away from collapse, a hero rises. Specs, your cathedral of cold cans, your oasis of cool.
The oasis of cool. I just like that. I might play that again just because I like that guy's voice. I want that guy just doing it. He went to check Liverpool's news on Twitter. Just very dramatic. What was I about to say? Oh, S. Roan. How do you even know about this? Where is it? Hold on. I'm looking for it. Where'd that comment go, S. Roan? I saw it. Now I'm looking for the chat, and I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Oh, Jesus. Snake, I'd be dead. S. Roan says, Jermichael Finley against A&M in 2007. Oof. Should I even bring that up? S. Roan. Really? So, I was told. Now, 2007, Jermichael Finley's last season in Austin. God, if he'd have come back and played in that 2008 team, you think if he and Jamal Charles come back that year, what does that 2008 team get over the hump? mean, that was a great team. They beat Texas Tech with Jermichael. Maybe just adding Jermichael Finley to that offense would have been enough to get out of Lubbock that night with a win, but a lot of screwy things had to happen for that to occur. So I had people on the 2007 Texas team tell me that Jermichael's performance, I can't remember the exact number, but it was a low number. You know, you get grades, right? So think Alex gives guys grades or whatever, and an 80 is a great grade. That's an NFL high drafted kind of a grade. You get in, you know, I don't know. I don't even use Alex's numbers because it wouldn't be the same. Just think about school grades, right? We're 70s passing. I had heard, now look, this is a long time ago. This feels like it's been 15 years plus. Jesus, 18. God, I can't even count anymore. It's been so many years. It's been almost 2 decades. He's got a kid that's a prospect. The word on the street was that Jermichael's performance against A&M in 2007 was, for guys that were in the locker room, I was told the lowest graded performance that any player in the history of the program had ever produced. Like, that's just what I heard. If Jermichael were here, I would ask him, hey, there's a million things I want to ask you about. Aaron Rodgers among them. Your redshirt season among them. 2008 among them. But I would have the guts to go, Jermichael, I've always heard there's an urban legend that what the hell happened? Were you hurt? What happened in 07 against the Aggies? It's just a thing. It's funny that S. Roan just dropped that out of nowhere because that is not something that's widely known. I wonder if you saw that on Orange Bloods, if we've referenced that before. Just throwing that out there. Mark jumps in and says, saw Derek Cooper canceled his announcement. Wonder if Texas is getting involved. I mean, Texas is involved. And I think that that's a recruitment that, look, I think the thing about the running back position in Texas, and I think given that Texas is kind of on pace to get exactly what they want, there's no panic. Texas is not trying to get a bunch of these commitments right now. The commitments are occurring. Texas doesn't want to necessarily lose them, but they don't necessarily care if they get them either. And I know that sounds like a warped message, right? Because would they turn away Richard Wesley's commitment? They didn't. They wouldn't. But if you also had told them, hey, Richard Wesley's not going to commit to anybody, and he's not going to make a decision until December, are you okay with that? I think Steve Sarkisian would have been like, bet. In fact, you might be able to, if you ask Sark, say, hey, Sark, here's the deal. Richard Wesley is going to make his decision on signing day. He's not going to commit to anybody. Would you rather have that between now and signing day, or would you rather have him go ahead and commit? Sark would think about it because he doesn't like to play on defense as a recruiter. He likes when guys are uncommitted. He likes to be uber aggressive. He likes to pursue. Some guys are better daters than they are married guys, right? I'm probably that way to a certain extent. I'm probably my most romantic, and I'm probably, my most gift giving when I'm pursuing, when I'm chasing. And then you get married and it's like, hey, do you do exactly the same amount of romantic things that you did when you were single? And it's like, I could do better. I could. I'm not the worst in the world, but that's not the bar. The bar was, what do you do at your peak? Are you hitting that? And it's like, no, probably not. I think same thing kind of happens. So I think Texas is going to wait. I think in December, you're going to see Texas make some big swings, but I think they're going to want to see the state of their roster. If CJ Baxter comes back like a beast and is the best running back in the SEC, but goes pro, and then you're not quite sure where you are with Wisner, or is he a back that you just build on? Like, there may be, I think some of these running back questions are going to be answered late. So you know, and Alan makes a good point. Alan says, if the wolf is not panicking, then Ketch doesn't panic. Alan, look, you brought it up, right? You brought the wolf up. The wolf reached out to me unsolicited yesterday. I wrote my 10 thoughts and didn't reach out to him. Sometimes you got to let these guys enjoy their summers, right? He sent me a note, 7:15 last night. Good article, 10 thoughts. We'll be fine. Crowell was the only slight shock. And then he and I went on to talk some more. But the thing that he stressed at one point, we close. The wolf ain't tripping. And again, I think the thing that I would have done, I think the thing that I did in my 10 thoughts column last night, which you can, the QR code's at the top. You can go read it. If you haven't already, you should. When you look at the numbers they already have, when you look at the positions they want to address, yeah, they'd like to hit a running back. And like I said, that may be one where you see the bank break at some point. I don't think they're done yet on that. I think we know that they'd want a tight end if they could get one. So that's another position that, hold on, they want to beef that up. And they like what they've done in recruiting. You know, they're not destitute there. Someone brought up Nick Townsend earlier, and, you know, he's not quite at the level where he would make the list that I'm talking about, consensus, super blue chips, 5 stars, high 4 stars that were ranked that way by multiple services. It's an elite list of, not everybody makes it. He didn't. But you'd like to have somebody that, you'd like to have a Jatavian Sanders, where it's like, that guy is expected to be an early NFL draft pick. Is he going to be? Yep. Kind of that simple. How good is he? Oh, he's like the best tight end on campus all 3 years he's here. You'd like to have somebody that good. We don't know that about Nick Townsend. We don't know that the day he shows up, he's the best tight end on campus. Or is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 2 years? Like, there's just questions there. He's not quite that, but he's super talented. Don't get me wrong. David, if you're out there, I promise I'm not dismissing the Mr. Williams school of scouting. I know where you had him ranked. But yeah, and then what else do we know? Well, they're going to get the offensive lineman, we think. You'd love to get a D tackle. They kind of have the edge guy. You know, when we look at Bryce Perry Wright, who makes his decision on July 4th as well, I think Texas was right there with him. But you get Richard Wesley. Can you afford Bryce Perry Wright? Like that's another question. Like, can you get 2 massive edge guys like that? On the same commitment list together, does one cancel each other out? We talk about the linebacker position, and does Griffin and Atkinson do that? And obviously Texas is waiting on Atkinson, but if they were going to make a choice between him or Griffin, they'd want Atkinson. I think there's always a feeling we could always go back in on Xavier Griffin if we absolutely have to. So yeah, man, there's not a lot of panic. Orange Blood 01 says, what are your thoughts on what Texas does at running back this year? Does Sark flip a super blue, or do we wait next year for a lead back? I think a little wait and see. I don't think they've made a big economic NIL push. Now, look, I was a little surprised that the Wolf mentioned Crowell as a guy that they were slightly caught off guard by. I think they thought they were better there than maybe the announcement indicated. Maybe something happened late there. I don't know. But I'm telling you, they did not know in December. They didn't know this time last year how they would feel about the roster in December. They just didn't. So they get towards the end, and there were positions of need that existed that had more area of stress or less. You know, they felt different about the tackle position. Cam Williams' emergence into it. Oh, that guy's just going to go pro? He's going to start 1 year and go pro. Oh, okay. They didn't automatically. They knew that there was a chance that could happen, but they didn't know, well, that's definitely a spot that we need to fill for next year. Because once that reality set in, I think that their feelings about, you know what, we should probably, Michael Fasusi matters a lot more than we thought. They're going to feel different about some of this. So I think the running back decision is going to be made after we get a sense of what the hell do they have at the position? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think of CJ Baxter. I don't think he's a star. I'm open to the possibility that he could be. He's not. He hasn't been. He's coming off of a major injury. But was he a super blue chip? Was he one of the best running back prospects in the country? Yeah. Was Nick Saban talking about him like he was the best player on the Texas team coming into this season last year? Yeah. I don't know what he is. I don't even know what Wisner is. Does anybody really know? Half the games he played in last year, he averaged less than 3.5 yards per carry. But he finished with 1,000 yards. He was a guy that at his best was a really good player. He's really versatile. I think he plays in the NFL. But that doesn't mean I think he's a starting running back. It just means I think he's going to play in the NFL. Those two things are not mutually exclusive from each other. So, yeah, I think, does James Simon emerge? Is Christian Clark a guy that Texas is going to count on in 2026 and 2027? There's so many questions. I think they're not worried about running back. I think they think if we need a running back, we're going to get a running back. Nobody should trip. By the way, it always just makes me happy when Alfio VC pops into the chat. It's rare when a legit former 5-star prospect just randomly jumps into the chat. But Alfio VC, formerly known as the former 5-star beast from Houston Yates, Alfio Randall, in the chat. And those of you will know that followed Alfio's career, that eventually it was Alfio Randall VC. It was hyphenated. But the VC obviously took over the Randall. But for those of you that follow recruiting a quarter of a century ago, Alfio is something else. Talk about a guy, very Felix Ojo-ish, if I'm being completely honest. Completely. Alfio was Felix Ojo 25 years ago. Swear to God. He was a guy that you looked at and you went, well, Jesus, if he adds 35 pounds, develops right, he's so athletic, it's easier said than done. Got to stay healthy, got to have good breaks, got to have some good fortune, just kind of go your way. And then you have to do all of those other things. But like way back in the day, just so y'all know, Alfio, the original Felix Ojo in my career, if I think about it, who was the first tackle, 5-star tackle from the state of Texas that had that kind of dripping wet. You could close your eyes and see them playing left tackle in the NFL one day. That was Alfio. That was 99, right, Alfio? Yes. And I only did rankings back to 97. You might be the first. Antoine Kirk-Hughes was the number one player, and Mike Williams were in that 1998 class. But those guys were built different. They weren't like you. So, yeah, Alfio is the first prototype of what is also Trevor Gooseby, right? It is that basketball-looking guy. Alfio, I'm glad you showed up. I ended up using you unexpectedly as a reference point, but you are the reference point. I always talk about guys just like Alfio was in high school, just long, super athletic. It's about projection. And sometimes they hit. Trevor Gooseby is a perfect example. And who the hell would have ever known that guy would slap 45 pounds on his frame, almost all muscle in 12 months? Like that guy, freak. If we'd known that, he'd have been a 5-star. Sometimes it just doesn't come as quickly. But Alfio, good to see you. Cotton says Turntine can be a big tight end. Cotton, I think Turntine's going to be a monster interior player. In fact, if you told me right now, Kyle Flood has already talked to John Turntine, and he's going to play center. Do you know what I would say to that? And I do not mean to give into hyperbole. I don't think this is hyperbole. If you told me right now that John Turntine was going to come inside and play center for Texas, I think he would be the best center prospect that Texas has signed since Dan Neal. Boom. For reals. That's, to me, this Turntine tackle stuff is, I don't quite get it, because we looked at Kelvin Banks when Kelvin Banks was in high school, and we said at one point, one day, the NFL is going to look at him and go, he might be better inside. He dominates at tackle at this level. And yet when he goes into the draft, now look, he's going to play left tackle for the Saints. But we know that the conversations, there were some NFL teams that were like, oh, we don't know if he can play tackle. He might look. And I did this to him when he was a prospect because I anticipated this. I was like, well, his best position might be guard, even if he'll kick ass at tackle like Justin Blaylock did when he was at Texas. That's one for the kids out there. You youngins may not know anything about that. But Blaylock played in the NFL at guard for a long time, but at Texas, he was a tackle. Turntine, to me, is eventually, no matter how good he is in college, he's going to, if and when he plays in the NFL, it's going to be inside. He's 6'3". What are we doing? Can we not play the pretend game where it's like Justin Blaylock may play tackle in the NFL, or he won't? And unless John Turntine hits a growth spurt, that kid's an inside player. Eventually, at some point. It's just like when Eric Winston was a tight end at Midland Lee, he and I would get on the phone. And maybe this is hyperbole, but it does not feel like hyperbole. Eric Winston and I would get on the phone and argue for like an hour at a time. And we must have done this a half dozen times. I rated him as an offensive tackle prospect. He was a tight end in his mind. And he was pissed at me because I rated him as a 5-star offensive tackle. And he was like, that's bullshit, Catch. I'm a tight end. This is where I'm going to play, blah, blah, back and forth all year long. And I was like, Eric, you're going to be a tackle in the NFL. That's what you're going to be. And you can save all this other, you can dunk, you can catch a ball. The Hurricanes want you to be the next Kellen Winslow. You're going to be a tackle. That's bullshit, Catch. One of these days, I need to invite Eric. I don't even know if Eric, the thing is, you have these conversations with prospects sometimes. And then 20 years later, they don't remember you at all. I used to talk to Drew Brees when he was in high school 3 or 4 times a week. I interviewed him by myself on camera at KI like 6 times over the course of the final 6 weeks of his recruitment. At various times, I track him down at maybe the Austin Bowie gym or the Westlake gym. And like, I interviewed him every week during his last 2 years at Purdue when I worked for I literally chronicled his entire career. I saw that kid cry in interviews that I did with him, right? So I'm interviewing him on Yahoo Sports Radio in 2016, something like that. For those that didn't know, I used to host a nationally syndicated radio show for Yahoo Sports Radio, which is now a defunct. Did you really do national radio if the network you did it for is no longer around? Like, who'd you work for? Yahoo Sports Radio. Is that a thing? It was. How many markets were you in? 200 plus. Can you prove it? Like, with what? Touche. But I had Drew on as a guest for something. You know, he's pitching something. We had him on for like 15 minutes. But before I had him on, I was like, hey, Drew, out of curiosity, you and I I've interviewed you about 100 times, but we haven't talked since I used to talk to you weekly in college. Do you remember me? And Drew Brees was so embarrassed. He was like, nope. I was like, damn. Come on, Drew, that breaks my heart. You don't remember me? Like, I played it cool, right? I was like, oh, that's okay, Drew. Obviously, you meet lots, but in my heart, I was like, oh, it's a killer. All these years, I'm the one that caped for Drew Brees when he was in high school. I'm the one that said before he ever played in college that he would be a Heisman finalist. Dude had 2 scholarship offers. I'm out here on these internet streets making these bold proclamations. And all these years later, Drew does not remember me. So I'm like, one of these days I should get Eric Winston to come on the show. We could talk about this conversation that we used to have when he probably doesn't remember me from anybody. Now, to be fair, I had hair back then. So maybe I'd have to put a mop on my head or something. Get one of those photos of me from that Texags likes to point out from like 30 years ago. And it's like, look at Kat. She was fat 30 years ago. It's like, you got me. Well done. Any photos not from the 90s? I mean, shit, I'm on YouTube every day. Just take those photos. Or, as Chris Bennett pointed out, I have we did glamour shots. Take my glamour shots. So, by the way, I like this call from Texas Squatch 1234. James Simon will emerge. Some people think that. Some people think that. Rock Drums 11 says, when does the Outsider show start back up? Maybe after Chad gets back. I'll be honest. I need to check with Bo. Chad's out. It's the 4th of July. Like they may take this. They may be off this week, but yeah, they'll be back. They may take this week off. A lot of people, Chad's off. Like they're going to be, it's the 4th of July. I'm not taking time off because I just work. That's all I do. Damn, Orange Blood. Hey man, I feel you. Recruiting makes me feel old these days. I played with Turntine's dad in high school. I feel you. I do. I don't remember who the first Reggie McNeil having kids spooked me. I'm trying to think who else has had kids. Chance Mock having kids. They're like just everybody's got kids. My kids are 11. It just sucks. It does. It makes you feel old. I'm with you. Orange Blood, I'm with you. How can you not feel a little bit old? Hey, Ben G with the hit the Gangstar music. Take it personal, Ben G. That's my jam. I was about the only guy in McCallum High School in 1994 that was truly bumping to Gangstar. My guy Chris Marshall can confirm this. He was not a Gangstar guy, and I would play Take It Personal. That was my joint, and I was like the only person that I don't even know what's going on in the chat right now. Texas Squatch is like Mateer is good, but not Heisman. I don't know what's happening in the Specs chat, but that's probably fair. Actually, you know what? By the way, Tracy Jackson says, is Football with Friends going back to being a live show once the season starts? Tracy, good question. I don't know. Here's the truth. It is bad for the channel for us to do as many live shows as we do. And we did when you think about how Orange Was Live started. The Horn, the former radio station, went out of business. We were trying to fill that gap. We kind of programmed it like a radio station. Doing 3 or 4 live shows every day, it just cuts the legs out from underneath all of the shows. What we found is that when the live shows don't compete against the live shows, the ones that exist do better. And that Football with Friends probably works better and has more success as a pre-record in terms of total number of page views, in part because it's not competing against the live show. Not saying no, because we may feel different when we get to the football season. We are tinkering / experimenting during the off season with a lot of this stuff because now would be the time to do it. So good question, fair question. And quite frankly, I think those guys kind of like doing the pre-records right now. But stay tuned. We're playing it by ear. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I think we're open-minded about what we'll be doing. All right, I think we're caught up on the chat. Rude Wayne says, OU really believes they'll beat us and make the playoffs. Rude Wayne, I'll just say, man, Texas fans are no better. Remember when Charlie showed up in 2014 and had the audacity to say out loud, well, we're not winning a national championship. Texas fans lost their minds. That was a team that went 6-7 and lost to Arkansas in a bowl game in just wretched, awful ways. Do you remember that team? Do you remember what the quarterback position looked at the end of the 2014 season? Do you? It was not good. And Texas fans were upset that Charlie had the audacity to say, well, we won't be better than Bama this year. Texas fans just don't, they can't talk. We can't talk. We can't. Because we've seen worse teams than what Oklahoma, Charlie Strong era. Come on now. Come on, guys. Look, I think OU fans are crazy. I don't think they're being realistic, but we can't act like for the last decade prior to the last couple of seasons that we haven't lived in some real wilderness. Real wilderness. And that you guys, by and large, Texas fans in general, didn't get all in their feelings when it got called out. We just can't. The example I always give is that I had the audacity to say that when Roger Goodell came to visit Charlie Strong, and was it 2014, 2015, about Charlie's 5 golden tickets or rules or whatever the hell they were, his golden rules. I don't remember exactly what it called them. The 5 legs of the pyramid. I don't know. Core values, 5 core values. I don't know if anybody said that in the chat before I was able to say it. And Goodell came and talked to him, and Texas fans were like, oh, core values. Championship. Because Roger Goodell wouldn't come talk to Charlie Strong unless he thought Charlie was going to win a championship. And I can remember after that happened, I was like, guys, I'll just be honest, man. Like, I know what you guys want this thing to be, but in a week from now, nobody's going to talk about this. Like, literally, no one's going to talk about this. And I was told in real time, Catch, you're just mad that Jason Higdon got the scoop on you. I was like, really? Or I could just tell you that this doesn't mean anything because it doesn't mean anything. Sounds so preposterous now to even talk about it out loud. But we all tied ourselves. And look, second game of Charlie Strong's tenure. The man kicked off first half and the second half. We knew then. We knew. But you couldn't say it out loud because then the dream dies. OU fans know. Look, the way OU fans know they're fucked is they hired the general manager that they hired. That was a move. That was the first move of the post-Brent Venables era. Take the talent decisions out of Venables' hand. Put a general manager in place that's in charge of scouting, who's in charge of selecting players, who takes a little bit of the power. That's not what Brandon Harris is. He wasn't hired to, I think, be the guy that they're expecting Jim Nagy to be at OU. They may do all the same things. Hell, Brandon Harris probably does more stuff. But they hired that guy for a very specific reason. They know Brent Venables is on the way out. They know what they are as a program. I think OU fans, I think the thing that I would tell OU fans, I think their administration knows how much more screwed they are than the fans do, and that's what needs to happen. You don't want your administration to be the last ones to know. They know they're not recruiting at an elite level. They know Texas is. They know that Georgia is. They know that Alabama is. They know that OU's recruiting at a pretty good level. But in the SEC, that doesn't win you jack anything. So they're trying to figure out how, and I give Oklahoma credit for this. I think they're on the front foot with regards to how do we make our roster the most talented possible. We may have to use some cheat codes. We may have to go to Wichita State. And if we hit on 1 out of every 5, but we hit big, maybe those are the fine margins that get us over the hump in a Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State kind of conversation. Texas doesn't need to do that. Casey says that OU needs a Moses. Maybe. Sandman says the cake is baked. Hold on, I clicked on it. Just didn't go away. Come back. Sandman, I'm giving you a little bit of love. It's pretty baked. I mean, did you hear Sark cut the promo last week where he was like, who else has done this? And who else has done this? And who else is this? And who else is this? He's cutting a WWE promo for the recruiting pitch to go to Texas. He's right. Who else? Who other than Texas is the last school to play in the national semifinals 2 years in a row? And the answer is nobody. I mean, that is a fact. It becomes real easy to sell the program when you're doing things your rivals are not. And it's the reason why, and I'll say it again, it's why when you see Venables and you see Elko make kind of wild statements, we're going to be elite this year. We're going national championship. What? Okay. Right? But what they're competing against is a Texas program that's telling kids, hey, man, every year you're here, national championship, we're going to compete for it. That's what Georgia does. That's what Alabama does. That's what Ohio State does. You look at the state of their roster and say, every year you're here, we're in the playoffs, we're competing for a national championship. You're going to have a chance to win a national championship every year. It doesn't matter that OU or A&M are 7-5 or 6-6 or 5. It doesn't matter. Just like it didn't matter. Texas had to say that stuff. OU's playing for championships back in the late 2010s, trying to make the jump. They've got the quarterback play. They think they've got the coach. They're trying to make that last step. Texas was trying to pretend like they were on OU's level. Oh, we're one recruiting class away from being better than – no, you're not. No, you're not. And even if you are, you're light years away from being elite. Ask Oklahoma. Every time they'd get into a playoff game, they'd get drop kicked upside the head, except for the one game where Baker Mayfield did kind of play out of his mind. What was it, the Georgia game? Best quarterback of all time, arguably in college football as a passer, not named Joe Burrow, just for the record. And obviously Vince's legs as a passer. Kyler Murray can raise his hand as well. You had that guy and you couldn't win. But Texas would talk about they're on that level, and they weren't. There are levels to this. I think the OU administration knows who they are. I think the OU fans are going to be among the last to find out. But honestly, you'd rather have that than the other way around. You don't want the fan base to know and the administration to be the last ones. Feels like Texas has been in that spot a few times. Orange Blood says, catch. Others have said it a lot. Go on the record. Is OU going the way of Nebraska given the changes to college football's landscape going forward? I don't think they're going to ever be as bad as Nebraska. But are they in the SEC in football going to compete for championships? I don't think anytime soon. Not for the rest of the decade. So, that's a version of Nebraska. I don't think it ever gets so bad that 20 years have gone by and it's like, oh, they haven't even been over 500 or whatever the hell some of these Nebraska stats are. They're ugly. Some of the Nebraska stats, when you hear them, you're like, what do you mean they haven't done this in 15 years? What do you mean? They haven't been 2-1 after 3 games and 15. Some of the numbers are crazy. So no, I don't think it's going to be quite that bad, but there could be there's a version of how you describe what that means. It's like when I say damn good, my version of damn good and your version of damn good and your neighbor's version of damn good may all sound different. So there is a version of what does it mean to go the way of Nebraska where they could be, but in the literal what Nebraska's done, I don't think it ever gets that bad. So who they may be is Texas Tech. That's who OU may be. I don't think OU is the Nebraska of the SEC. I think they're the Texas Tech of the SEC. I think if they can get the right quarterback, they can win 8, 9, 10 games. Right quarterback, right? Baker Mayfield level quarterback. But they're not built Their talent's just not quite on the level of the elite. Tennessee, sure. Ole Miss, sure. LSU, almost. Florida, for now, yeah. Georgia, Texas, no. Different animals. Alabama, different animal. So, I don't know. To me, that's who they are. They're more Texas Tech than Nebraska. Because, to be fair, Nebraska played in some Big 12 championship games. OU ain't playing in the championship games. That's not happening. Sorry, OU fans. That's just not going to happen. All right, guys, look, I'm going to roll out of here. By the way, Michelle, you're not wrong. Tech without the billionaires writing the checks. But you know what? They're not. You're right. Tech without. They are. Oh, because OU, if OU was Tech, I think Texas fans be bitching about them a little bit more. They'd be talking about them like they're A&M. Oh, A&M's paying players. Whatever we said about why OU got Fasusi, it wasn't because they dump trucked Texas with money. It's like, oh, they gave his best friend a spot on the roster. Texas should have. No, fair enough. His mom liked him more. Fair enough. He liked OU more than Texas. Fair enough. Nobody was like, oh, the money. Just something I'm throwing out there. All right, guys. Sandman, you have so many posts. Oh, is this the question, Sandman? Catch. Which loss hurts more? 2001 Big 12 championship game. Okay, I was there. 2008 Texas Tech. I remember. 2009 Bama. Yeah. What are we doing? What are we doing? I tell you what. Let's do this. Let's take January 7th. 2010, was that the day? Let's take that out of the equation. 2001 Big 12, 2008 Texas Tech, 2003 Sugar Bowl, 2024 Cotton Bowl. It's the Cotton Bowl of last year, isn't it? If they'd won the Sugar Bowl, I still feel like they lose to Michigan. If they beat Tech, they still have to go beat Florida. And if they beat Colorado, they lose to Miami. I think we all think. Nobody thought they were going to beat that Miami team. So we're looking at losing to Ohio State cost Texas a national championship. And I don't know. We can't say that about any of those other games outside of 09 Bama, because there was still a lot of work to do. In 01 and 23, better teams than Texas were still in front of Texas. We'll never know a 2008, a Texas-Florida matchup, what it would have looked like. We got screwed. We're just never going to know. It's the great all-time game that we were robbed of as a public that we should have had. Instead, you played like shit in that game. And it made Florida fans think, we could just beat Texas. Well, no, Texas beat them by 10. Probably would have been a good game. Don't know how it would have gone. We'll never know. I'm going to go 2024. Simply because, look, nothing's more outright devastating, I think, than 08 Tech, right? Blake Gideon still can't go anywhere without somebody pretending to fair catch a football. So I don't know that there's a singular moment in that 20, even with all due respect to Jack Sawyer's strip and fumble return against Texas, against Ewers. The loss that cost the most in order, 09 Bama, 2024 Cotton Bowl, 2008 Tech, 2023 Sugar Bowl, 2001 Big 12. Even though we all acted like idiots, and I won't say we, I'm just talking about if you were at that game, there were so many drunk people, Chris Sims, that whole thing. I can't separate myself from it. I literally had a friend, rest in peace, Brad, who was so drunk and lost in the parking lot that I think it was like 1 a.m. Chandra, Matt, Justin, any of you watching this video, you guys will know that was not fun. Couldn't get cell phone service, and Brad was just lost in the goddamn parking lot at Texas Stadium. It was chaotic that night. But memorable. We partied with Cedric Benson's mom that night. Rest in peace to a lot of people that I remember that night for and over. All right, Sandman, I think I answered your question. I hope that does it. Did 2001 Miami actually beat a good team? Well, yes. And I don't think Texas was that good. Texas scored 3 points against Oklahoma. Yay. They didn't want a piece of that Miami team. Just know that. You think Chris Sims wanted a piece of Miami? And I love Chris. And you think Major wanted a piece of that? The Major that struggled against the Kansas States of the world, put super athletes in front of Major and things get complicated. Come on, guys. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. You're going to get me in trouble. Now I'm going to start talking about 2001 quarterback position. You guys are going to argue with me that it wasn't that bad. Go look at it. None of them were great. The greatest trick the devil pulled on any of us was convincing us that either Chris Sims or Major Applewhite were so good that we should all fight amongst each other for 25 years about the goddamn thing, when the truth of the matter is neither of them were that good. I said it. On the last day that Orange Bloods is on the Rivals Network, before we go independent tomorrow, I finally come clean on the Major Chris situation. We should have just let it go. Vince Young was 2 years away. What were we doing? What were we doing? For the guy that was in Section 8 of the Colorado game that Texas won by 30-something points and was complaining about Vince Young in 2001, dude, just a few years, Vince Young's going to be there. Just shut up. Shut up. Save your breath. Quit screaming at that kid. He doesn't deserve it. It'll be fine. Trust me. The Rose Bowl, you're going to love it. I feel a little bit like at the end of Back to the Future, where it's like, oh, well, Michael J. Fox is like, but your kids are going to love it. Yeah, a little bit of that. All right, I really am going to end things. Guys, like, comment, subscribe to the page. Actually, before we do anything, you know what we haven't done? This.
Hi, everyone. This is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations. We've been serving and assisting customers in the Texas area
I think I got this by now, old man. This is Camilla McKay, Audiovisual's social media and website manager. Our company has been helping you sit back and relax for the last 37 years. We come to you, and we're the kind of workers you want in your home. We give you all the advice at a great price, and we do a lot more than just audiovisual systems. We have employees capable of performing services like electrical contracting, heated floors, motorized shades. Am I forgetting anything, old man?
Yeah, we do surveillance systems, controlled lighting systems and landscape lighting, computer networks, multi-room audio systems, and of course, we install some really cool theaters.
I had a feeling you were going to say that last one.
Now, am I forgetting anything?
Only this. Remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
So give us a call at 512-255-8678.
Or visit us online at avconsultations.com.
That's 512-255-8678.
Come on, Camilla. It's time. You need to like two-step like our girl Lisa does in the spec spots. We want to see you. We want to see the star. I'm just saying that out loud. I'm putting it into the universe. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm literally hitting the end stream button. Hit the thumbs up button. I was all by myself for an hour. That deserves a like. Plus, I told random stories you'll never hear anywhere else. Ask Eric Winston. He probably doesn't even remember the one that I told about him